My course of study is based on an interactive read aloud lesson that I do during my literacy block. My school is a kindergarten and first grade primary school, and my students are in first grade. The school as a whole has about 75% of students on free and reduced lunch. There are about 10 boys and six girls in my class, and three of those students are English language learners, and two receive extra services through RTI and speech therapy. So, the learning management system I chose to use for this lesson or this unit is Seesaw. Seesaw is a program that is designed for students to use as a digital portfolio. They are able to sign on to any device, so they can use a computer or they can use a iPad or even an old phone to record and post their work. It's a great way to keep students accountable, specifically in centers, which is primarily how we will use this program. So they can also connect parents, and that is another great way to keep students accountable for their own work, is not only by me seeing it, but by parents being able to view it as well. So students can record, annotate, and post images and text to the Class Seesaw page, as well as post to our blog. Being that this is a first grade project, I chose a Seesaw to use as kind of a blended learning activity that we use in our literacy centers, and would also be something that you could use in your math centers. So that would be something I'd be excited to implement as well. So as I said before, this unit's based on our interactive read aloud lessons. So, and that an interactive read aloud is based on high quality complex text, and it gives the students multiple opportunities to explore the different features of the text and the different meanings. And it is all done in a supported, scaffolded and challenging setting. So here you see my Seesaw page, and this is our class page, and it's set up, similar to Edmodo or Facebook, where there is a feed and there's a class feed where I post things that every student can see. But you also have the different student feeds. So if a student signed in, they'd only see what I either posted to everyone, or I can post something specifically to just them. And in turn, when they post something, I am the only one that sees it unless they choose to post it to the whole class, which is what we do in a few of the activities we have. We post to make a word wall on our class blog, and we post some answers to our community building activity. So their community building activity is completing kind of a seesaw hunt, and they have to complete some activities that will help them understand how to use Seesaw. So they have to post a picture, they have to post their first post, and then they have to post something to our blog. So I kind of modeled examples of that, and this is the one that's on the blog. So it's over here, both on the blog right here, and it is on our class feed. So you can see it right there. So the students kind of go through and do those fun activities and engage them in the program for the first time, and then it also teaches them how to use it. So, and then this is how I answered the question to my favorite story by showing the students a link to my favorite story where they can actually watch and listen to that, which I thought was an engaging way to bring them into how to use the program. So here's the first day of our actual lesson. So we would do that seesaw hunt like the first day, and then we would go into the lesson. So I talk about what we're using. And then the important part of a read aloud is that the first thing you do is learn the vocabulary before you even start the story. So I have an activity for them to complete in partners, vocabulary cards that we use in both our class page, and then we post them to the blog to kind of make a virtual word wall, because we make a word wall both in the classroom, and thanks to Seesaw, we can do it also we can also do it virtually. So here's a little video that explains kind of the objectives of our lesson, and it shows them how to do it. And it kind of explains how to look a word up in a dictionary and how to illustrate the word we're talking about. And then again, here's an example, because I'm kind of modeling and scaffolding for them how to do this. And then I use a little telegami to give them like the final instructions, and that kind of makes it an engaging and more of a hook way to kind of guide them into starting their assignment. So again, here's a modeled example of what their vocabulary card should look like. And then after that is completed, they have a an assessment where they choose a word that they did not know before we started the vocabulary, and they have to illustrate and define it and use it as a sentence. So they're kind of repeating what they just did, but they're choosing a word that they did not work on and that they did not recognize. So after they have visited all the vocabulary and learned that, they are ready to dive into the story. So here, they have an opportunity to listen to the story. And ideally, we would also read it in class, but here they can both revisit it and be able to watch it here. Then right here, you see their first center activity. So there are instructions here, and then I also recorded instructions. So students would be able to revisit my instructions during centers if they weren't able to ask me, which often happens with first graders in centers. There's a lot of asking questions, so this would be a great way to kind of curb some of that, because they would be able to use their devices in groups and be able to hear the instructions again when they needed it. Then to kind of scaffold the students into answering the questions on the very first day of reading the story, we would answer the questions as a whole group. So here is our hook for the next day of the interactive read aloud, and that is just a campaign video for duck. So it's a great way to open the lesson for that day. And that day we would revisit the story, and I have a video of me reading a few parts of the story I want the students to compare and contrast. So that is an activity we would do as a whole group. And then this time, as we're kind of guiding them and being able to answer their own questions, they would be working on answering these questions in their center. And again, I record my instructions on right here with the questions. So lastly, this is kind of the culminating day of the lesson, and the hook for that day is the students taking a quiz on Kahoot. So they would click this link using their devices, and they would have groups together in a table, and they would be teams, and then they would answer these quiz questions. So they would go to this question right here, and they would answer them, and it comes up kind of as a quiz when you click play. So then after they are hooked into that, into that part of the lesson, we go into the part where they're independently answering the questions, because we have been leading up to that all week within the lesson. So here I record and type out the instructions that I want them to do. So I have them write in their journal, and then I want them to post their answers in their journals when they are all finished. So ideally, they would work on these in centers, and then there would be a center where they could post their final product. So, and lastly, to complete the entire lesson that we've gone over the whole week, we would use our plickers to take an assessment. So the students use the plicker cards to answer the different questions, and then I use an iPad to record their answers. So you can see here are the questions that I am going to ask them, and then the students hold up a card, and I'm able to record, who correctly answered it and who did not, and then I can save it. So it's another great way to digitally record what the students' assessments and the students' work without having stacks and stacks of paper. So back to our Seesaw page, after we've done our assessment and we've finished, all the activities for our interactive read aloud for the week, I have them kind of do a culminating task where they make a Duck for President poster. So it's kind of a fun way to end the whole lesson. So they make their own poster for the Duck for President, and they tell me about what they think it would say. And here again, I record my instructions for them. So then after that, I want them to post their pictures to our class blog. So you would go right here, and you can see them posted on the class blog, and that is my course of study.